AAA game devs have gone insane. Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Before the video starts, if you enjoyed today's video, leave a like and subscribe, and please leave a comment and let me know your thoughts. And hop into my community Discord server, the link is in the description. AAA game devs have gone absolutely insane in terms of how they develop their games. Monetization over creativity. Many AAA studios focus on microtransactions, battle passes, loot boxes, and cosmetics instead of making a great core game. In games launch feeling more like cash shops with gameplay attached rather than a full experience. We then have rushed releases and broken games. Studios push out unfinished games full of bugs just to meet shareholder deadlines, which is absolutely bullshit. I remember the day where if you wanted to launch a game, you had to make sure that shit was polished and working. Can we please go back to that? We have a focus on games as a service. Instead of releasing polished, complete games, studios push live service models that demand endless engagement. This burns out players and devs and often kills creativity in favor of predictable and content-dripped feeds. Absolutely A1 on that. Call of Duty is the perfect example of this. Yearly releases along with a live service model is killing the creativity process over at the Call of Duty studios. Treyarch, Raven, Sledgehammer, Infinity Ward. Infinity Ward just doesn't give a shit what they're doing. They just want to do their vision because they're all a bunch of narcissists. And then we got creative stagnation, okay? Sequels and remakes dominate because they're safe bets. Studios avoid risks and end up recycling the same mechanics, settings, and characters, which burns people out. Corporate interference. Game design is often dictated by executives, investors, and marketing teams instead of developers. This leads to bizarre design choices, forced diversity checklists, and chasing industry fads like NFTs and AI integration. Toxic work culture. Crunch time, layoffs, and high turnover hurt morale. And veteran devs leave for indie projects while AAA studios decide to fill gaps with cheaper and less experienced labor. All you have to do is look at the quality of Call of Duty over the last few years and you can definitely tell what happened over there. And then there's a huge disconnect from gamers. Big studios sometimes would rather treat players as consumers to be milked instead of a community to serve. This fuels the they've lost touch with reality vibe. Now let's do a deep dive. Monetization over creativity. What's happening? Well, teams and publishers optimize for lifetime value per player. Ads, cosmetics, microtransactions, and battle passes. This shifts design goals from making a enjoyable system to make a system players will repeatedly open their wallets for. How this affects games. Progression systems get stretched into time gates. Meaningful choices get turned into purchasable shortcuts. And play loops are tuned to encourage repeat transactions rather than deliver a satisfying one-time experience. Design choices that would make a game fun or coherent are sometimes rejected because they don't maximize short-term revenue. And the consequences of this. Player trust erodes. Communities fragment around pay-to-win complaints, and critical acclaim can't compensate for perceived nickel and diming. What can help on this? Well, transparent pricing, focusing monetization on purely cosmetic items, one-off expansions, DLC story for games, or publisher incentives that reward long-term player loyalty rather than immediate transactional metrics. Rushed releases and broken launches. Big budgets, public deadlines, quarterly financial pressure, ship on schedule. Even if the game isn't ready, large projects also create huge technical complexity. So bugs multiply if QA and integration are rushed. How that affects games. Shipping with large technical debt, broken systems, missing features, and unstable matchmaking, then relying on patches and day one updates to fix things. That pushes costs later, hotfix teams, reputation damage, and forces a live ops approach to keep players around while issues are fixed. Consequences. Well, refunds, bad reviews, brand damage, stretched out support cycles, and developer morale problems. What can help this? Realistic milestones, longer QA cycles, public betas, releasing when stable rather than when the calendar says, and contractual incentives for quality rather than meeting deadlines. The games as a service dominance. The games as service model promises steady recurring revenue, so studios design for retention and recurring monetization. Season passes, seasons, timed events, stuff like that. Investors like predictable cash flows, so more projects are pushed into that mold. How does this affect games? Single-player, tightly authored experiences get deprioritized. Content is shaped around seasonal trailers and live calendars instead of artistic arcs. Gameplay can become extend the grind rather than tell a complete story. What are the consequences of this? Well, you can get franchise fatigue, narrative compromise, and player exhaustion from constant engagement tax. Events you must log in to not miss. But it can also fund ongoing support for successful titles. There is nuance to this. What can help this? Hybrid approaches, single player plus optional live layers, separate teams for live ops versus narrative development, and a clearer communication about what games as a service version of a franchise will and won't be. Creative stagnation. Big publishers prefer known IP and proven formulas to reduce risk. Focus groups and A/B testing push forward incremental improvements, not big creative leaps. How does this affect the games? Fewer original IPs, more reskins, iterative sequels, and features that tested well in research rather than bold, risky design experiments. Bold ideas get trimmed in favor of metrics that look conservative on spreadsheets. What are the consequences? The market feels repetitive. Indies get the creative slack, but often lack the reach or polish of a AAA studio. Players who want novelty look elsewhere. What can help? Allocating an innovation budget inside larger publishers, internal incubators, small creative teams with runway, and publishing models that tolerate percentage of flops as the cost of occasional breakthroughs. That could help. Just allow people to do stuff, man. Just allow people to try new shit. Unless you're Infinity Ward. At that point, your studio should be fired. Corporate interference. Business stakeholders, publishers, marketers, executives, sometimes non-gaming corporate owners, set KPIs and make editorial calls, often focused on reach, monetization, or PR optics rather than design integrity. How does this affect the game? Features get added/removed to hit marketing hooks. Monetization is shoehorned into single-player fibers, and creative decisions become bureaucratic compromises. Devs may be told to rework systems to hit projections rather than player needs. What are the consequences? Tone-deaf mechanics, fractured visions, and internal friction. Creative leads can get sidelined, leading to weaker final products. What can help? Clear creative ownership, transparent roadmaps that include business goals and player experience goals, and contractual protections for lead designers to preserve a core vision. Toxic work culture and crunch. What is happening in regards to this? Unrealistic schedule, massive scope, plus the fear of layoffs equals sustained crunch and burnout. Studios often ramp up hiring for production, then cut after release, which creates instability. How does this affect the games? Burned out teams cut corners, quality suffers, and institutional knowledge leaves when people quit. Toxic environments also reduce diversity of thought and create PR disasters when allegations surface. What are the consequences? Fewer experienced developers, reputational harm, lawsuits, and a loss of goodwill from both employees and players. What can help? Well, here's what can help. Industry-wide standards on working hours, better project management, scope control, unionization, or collective bargaining where appropriate, and publishers adopting longer timelines to reduce crash burn cycles. The disconnect from the community. What is happening? Studios rely heavily on telemetry and social media snippets to make decisions, sometimes ignoring broader community sentiment and qualitative feedback. PR teams may spin instead of listening. How does this affect the game? Developers can misread what players actually want. Legitimate feedback gets drowned by the loudest voices or drowned in data points that don't tell the full story. Poor PR responses amplify problems instead of calming them down. What are the consequences? Well, the consequences can be dire. You can face backlash, boycotts, review bombs, and a loss of trust that's hard to rebuild. Even a technically solid game can fail commercially if the community feels ignored or abused. What can help? Genuine two-way communication. Activision, I hope to fucking god you're listening to this video. Genuine two-way communication, early access with meaningful feedback loops, player councils, clear change logs, and treating community managers as translators, not spin doctors. Activision and all of the COD studios. I hope to God you just listened to what I just said and you decide to implement it. In conclusion, guys, I think it's clear as day that the AAA gaming space, within game developers, that is, has gone absolutely crazy, with Randy Pitchford basically saying that if you don't like the state of the game he made, Borderlands 4, code your own game engine and show us how it's done. Randy Pitchford, I got one thing to tell you, buddy. You are more sensitive than a clitoris on a female's vagina. You are a pussy. You don't ever tell your customers that. You don't ever do that. Granted, I've been playing Borderlands 4, and yes, the gameplay you're seeing is Borderlands 4, but that doesn't take away the fact that how I feel about what you've been saying towards some of the people on Twitter is borderline mentally retarded, okay? Don't do that. Have a better sentiment with your community, and be in touch with reality that your game fundamentally runs like shit on PC. How about that? We need game developers to be held accountable for the mess-ups they make on their products, and how they treat their community overall. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, smash the like button and consider subscribing to stay up to date with all the latest content, and share the channel with your friends. It helps the channel grow. Have a great day, everyone.